I just need you to be able to see the smartboard, the precise adjective chart, and our content and language objectives. Give me a thumbs up if you can see all those things. All right, you guys, today we are going to talk about describing your setting. I know I talked to Ms. Fulton yesterday, and you guys have been describing characters, and I noticed your character trait posters, and you've been filling those out as you are describing characters in all the different books that you guys are reading. Today we're going to move on to setting. So our content objective is like the what. What are you going to be doing? You are going to I can describe the setting using details from the story. That's what you need to be able to do. So to do that, this is the how we're going to do that. And today's the first lesson on it. So I can use complete sentences to tell a partner how the teacher used details from the story to describe the setting. This is our objective up here as well. So you guys are just going to be telling your partner what I am doing to describe the setting. You guys aren't going to be describing the setting yourself. You're just going to be telling a partner, what is the teacher doing? How did she describe the setting? What did she use? And you'll use sentence starters like first she, then she, next she, after that she. So I'm going to go through right now and tell you kind of exactly what I'm going to be doing. First, I'm going to read through the beginning of the story where it introduces the setting. Then I'm going to go through and read it again to really pick out the details of the setting and find evidence in that text that's describing it. So first I'm just going to enjoy it. Then I'm going to go back and reread the introduction to get out those details. Next I'm going to start writing out what those details are from the story. And after that I'm going to decide what adjective out of my list here, what adjective describes the setting, using my evidence that I've written down and brainstormed. And maybe none of these adjectives will work for it, but it's a start for some of our adjectives. Historic, wilderness, rustic, wild, dangerous, picturesque, beautiful, rugged, and primitive. Those might be some new words for some of us, but as we start reading stories, we're going to put those adjectives to some stories that we're reading. Questions? Question?
What is rustic?
What is rustic? What do you think of when you hear the word rustic or rusty, Abby?
It sounds like it's like all dusty or like old.
Dusty or old, so our setting would kind of be maybe old. Savannah?
In the book I named there's a cat that used to be named Rusty, and it was because his coat looked like rust. Maybe I think of like rust or the color of rust when I think of rust.
Okay, when you think of rustic, you think of the color rust or the look of something being rusty, so it might be looking kind of old. Maybe we'll find a story that we could describe rustic also. Could somebody read our objective reports?
I can use complete sentences to tell a partner how the teacher used details from the story and describe the settings using first, next, and then.
Okay. Somebody else want to read them? What's your name again? Cervante. My computer fell asleep. Devante, could you read the objective for us?
I can use complete sentences to tell a partner how the teacher used details from the story to describe the setting used first, next, and then.
Any questions about that? All right, we're going to move on. So, first I said I was going to enjoy the story, and Mrs. Fulton gave me some fairy tales that you guys were reading, and was talking about using these stories, and I picked up one that has the introduction shows the setting off. So this one, a fairy tale. What is a fairy tale? Braylon, what is a fairy tale?
A fairy tale is something that cannot happen ever.
It's something that cannot happen. Can anybody add to that definition of what a fairy tale is? What is your name again? Sydney.
And it's totally made up.
And it's totally made up. Okay, something that can't happen, it's totally made up. add to that? Samuel?
Magic.
Ooh, there might be some magic in it. What is your name? Javier.
Something that's probably never ever could happen.
Something that could never happen. It might have magic, and it's totally made up. So we're going to read a fairy tale. It's called The Frog Prince. I'm not going to read the whole story today. I'm just reading the introduction part of it. And maybe you've heard this story too, or seen a movie that is based off of the Frog Prince fairy tales. Do you have a comment?
We just read that today.
Ooh, which
Different
one?
version.
A different
We read the
version.
Brothers Grimm one.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one is from an Osborne. So it is a different version of it. So maybe you read through the other one, the whole story. Maybe we can compare some of the settings to it. So the Frog Prince. We're just going to enjoy it in the beginning and really visualize what the setting would look like. It was a hot summer's evening, and the princess had found a shady spot among the trees beside a deep blue pool. So already I'm visualizing the setting where the princess is sitting. I already know she's outside, and I know she's by a deep blue pool. I'm wondering if what that pool is. Is it like a pool, like a community pool, like where I go swimming? Or are we talking like outside in the wilderness, maybe a pond or a lake? So maybe we'll
Or a well.
or a well. Although she was already late for dinner, the princess was in no hurry to go home to the stuffy castle, so she lingered by the pool. Idly, she threw her golden ball into the air. It glinted in the evening sunlight, dazzling her. And as she reached to catch it, her ball slipped from her fingers. The princess watched helplessly as it landed in the pool with a plop and vanished into the deep water. "My beautiful golden ball," she cried. "How am I ever going to get it back?" Then she heard a croaky voice. "I can help you," it said. The princess wiped the tears from her eyes, but she couldn't see anyone. "Who's there?" she called. "Where are you?" "I'm right beside you," came the voice again. The princess looked all around her, but she still couldn't see anyone. "I'm down here on this lily pad," called the voice. The princess peered down to the lily pad. "Ugh, an ugly, slimy frog," she gasped. "And it could talk?" That's the magic part of it, because frogs don't really talk. Could never happen. "I may not be pretty," croaked the frog, "but I'm very nice. When you get to know me, you'll know this." The princess stared at the frog's bulging eyes and gaping mouth in disbelief and in disgust. So I'm going to stop at that point, because the beginning of the story really talked about the setting, and it's already put me in the setting, and I don't need to read much further to get where the prince is at this point. So I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to start brainstorming, and I'm going to write my brainstorming down, because it's a good place to put everything in my brain, all my thoughts, down on paper, so that I can look at it when I'm all done. First I'm going to write down my story, so it's The Frog Prince. And circle one that I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about the setting. So my brainstorm, the first thing I'm going to do is trying to decide how am I going to organize my thoughts. First, I'm going to write down where the setting is right in the middle of the story. It's in a pool, or maybe a pond. I'm going to leave a little extra space in here because I'm going to come back and describe it using an adjective. Now, around this, I'm going to add some of the details from the story that describe my pond, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're describing it. So I'm going to reread it this time, stopping and writing things down. The Frog Prince. It was a hot summer's evening, and the princess had found a shady spot among the trees beside a deep blue pool. There's a lot in there that helps me describe the setting. I see in the first sentence, it says it was a hot summer's evening. Did you hear something?
She was on the line. She looked for a shade on the trees.
So the shade among the trees, would that be some evidence from our story that tells us about the setting? So I'm going to write that idea down. So we have shade among trees. And after I write it, I'm going to circle it, because that's one idea that helps me describe it. And so he got that. It said the princess had found a shady spot among the trees. So that's helping us right there describe it. Savannah, did you have something on this?
Is it something that we haven't read?
I'm going to take it right from the text, the stuff that I have read.
I don't like the stuff that we read today, but like
From the text that I read today.
That we haven't read for a second time.
From the story I read or from the story Mrs. Holt read?
From you.
Oh, yeah.
If he was on a lily pads don't grow on land, so they must be in a pool.
So the lily pad gives you an idea, describes the setting.
Like there might be more lily pads than those lily pads.
Probably it's a pond.
Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah, because pools don't have lily pads.
So now, should we think I should cross off pool?
Yeah.
Because we just figured out it's really not a pool because there's lily pads in it. So I'm
Well,
just
she
gonna
would say
cross
beach
off
if there were shady
pool.
trees.
So it's probably in a pond.
It would be a beach.
All right, so let's go back to what this says. It says it was a hot summer's evening. Does that help describe? To me, that's helping me describe the setting. So a hot summer's evening. So now I know it's in the summer.
It's hot. And in the evening.
It's hot. And it's in the evening. What does evening mean, everybody?
Means night.
What is it?
Night. Or like sunset. I like to think of evening as sunset. I think of evening as the middle of the day. Yeah.
When the author wrote evening instead of night, it gives us different ideas. So sunset, so it's maybe a beautiful setting at this time of the day. All right, so I'm going to keep reading. Stop me if you hear anything that helps you describe the setting. Although she was already late for dinner, the princess was in no hurry to go home to the stuffy castle. So she lingered by the pool. Eddie, what did you hear?
The castle?
The castle. Okay, is she at the castle right now?
No, but she might go there later.
She might go there later, so our setting could change later, so we might have to describe a different setting later. Liam?
Maybe if you draw your picture, maybe the castle would be somewhere in the background. She's near it, because if I were a princess, I wouldn't go too far from the castle.
You mean prince?
Hey, sorry, I'm just imagining.
It's just.
So if you were in the story, you wouldn't venture far from home.
Like if I was in control of that story, or something, I don't know what I'm saying.
You're the prince.
Liam, I think I hear you saying that you
If
just
I was
wouldn't venture
somebody that
far.
lived in the castle was that important, I wouldn't go too
If it
far.
was the frog princess.
I would stay inside, so if something random like a dragon came out and beat it to our castle.
Okay, so she's somewhere near the castle.
I hope.
She's somewhere near it. So the castle would be in the background, but she's not at the castle. She does say it's a stuffy castle.
Ooh.
So that's telling me that where she's at is not stuffy, because she doesn't want to go to the stuffy castle.
Where's the?
What is stuffy? Ooh, that's a good one. What is stuffy? Does it mean I'm like stuffing a turkey with some stuffing? No. What does that mean? Katie, what does that mean?
It seems like it has like too much things in it, like scenery and.
Maybe too many things that are going on in the castle. I'm going to keep going, okay, because we are running short on time. I got to keep going. You guys have great ideas, but we want to focus on what our objective is, and it's describing this setting. So I'm going to keep reading. So she lingered by the pool. Idly, she threw her golden ball into the air. It glinted in the evening sunlight, dazzling her. So that sentence right there also describes my setting. It glinted in the evening sunlight. So we have evening again, but we also have sunlight adding to that. So I'm going to add sunlight. So I think when Savannah had said sunset, I think it's kind of probably at sunset time because there's still sunlight. It's not the dark of night.
Glinting in the pink light.
I'm going to keep going. The princess watched helplessly as it landed in the pool with a plop and vanished into the deep water. Okay, so now we know again it is a deep pool. So we can add
You mean deep pond?
deep pond. What color did the author say it was?
Blue.
It was what color, everybody?
Blue.
Blue. Alright.
That's my favorite color.
And at that point, the author now goes into what is happening in the story. So now it's going into the events. Now it's starting to go into the event. So I'm gonna stop at this point, and I wanna describe my setting with a specific adjective. So I'm gonna stop and just look at our brainstorming and come up with which one would make most sense for this. So first I read through the story once to just enjoy it. Then I read through it to pick out the details from the story. After that, now I'm going to kind of synthesize all the ideas that we have from our brainstorming and pick an adjective that describes it. I'm going to start with historic. None of this reminds me of something that's from the history that it would be from the olden days. That's not really what it reminds me of. So I'm not going to use that one. Wilderness. It's in the wilderness, but I'm going to go back to the among the shaded trees. I'm going to go back to the evening sunlight. This is something like I think is probably looking really beautiful and relaxing. Remember, she doesn't want to go back to the stuffy castle where it's all plain and boring. She wants to be out in this beautiful wilderness area. So maybe there's a better way to describe this. Isaac, do you have an idea?
I think it's dangerous.
You think it's dangerous?
She's
Why do you think it's dangerous?
Because she's alone and if somebody comes, they can take her or something like that.
Okay, well let's go back to the evidence that we took straight from the story. We have lily pads. I don't really feel like those are probably dangerous. It's summer and hot and evening. It's probably, I can see where she's by herself, away from her castle. It could be dangerous, but my evidence from the story really isn't showing me that it's dangerous. Not yet, anyways. Maybe later on, but right now.
It's deep.
Deep pond. Maybe if she didn't know how to swim, it could be dangerous. But all these things, is it really telling me that it is dangerous?
No.
No, not really. It's more of a beautiful setting.
Beautiful.
Savannah?
I have a thing. I have a describe for it.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce this, but picture cue. That's how I'm gonna.
Picturesque.
Okay, I
Can you
forgot
say
how.
that with me? Picturesque.
I know how. I've just. The teacher said it earlier. I just forgot how to pronounce it. It means picture perfect. I would like that.
You think it's picture perfect?
Yes, I do.
Who thinks that shade among the trees would be kind of like a picture perfect in the fall when I'm sitting among the trees? To me, that is picture perfect. It's a beautiful setting. Some lily pads. Some summer, well, I'm just making a connection to our life right now. It's fall. I think it would be beautiful. It's hot. It's the evening sunlight, so the sun is setting. And usually the sky is very beautiful at that time. And it's deep blue. So in deep blue, again, it's kind of like a picture perfect, beautiful setting. So I would agree with Savannah that it is something that's picturesque. So I have made I've taken my evidence, I've taken a precise adjective, and I'm going to write it back in the middle. So now I have my setting, and it's picturesque, because I have proven it using my details.
You could take red to write it.
I will take red to write it, so it sticks out better. And I'm going to make sure I spell it correctly by using my chart. It's picturesque. All right, so my pond is picturesque. You can just leave it alone. Let's go back to my objective. I can use complete sentences to tell a partner how the teacher used details from the story to describe the setting. So I've just described the setting and went through a whole entire process that I used. I did something first, I did something next, after that, and then at the end I did something. I would then be putting it into a complete sentence at this point, but for sake of the time that we have together, I really want you guys to tell someone what I did. And I have described it using an adjective, but I haven't put it into a complete sentence. I have the ideas down. Who thinks that they could tell us what I did first? What is something? Why don't we turn to a partner? How do you do partners in here?
Turn and talk.
Turn and talk. Do they have like elbow partners? Just find someone next to you. Can you find someone next to you and tell them what I did first?
First she's gonna read it. Then next.
I just got to be part of 2 different conversations, and we were using the sentence starters that we used, and they were going in order of what I was talking about, and you guys did a really detailed job of telling what I did. Now I'd like to hear what you guys talked about, and what did I do first? How could we share out as a whole class? You guys have been great at offering to share out, but I want to hear from people that I haven't heard from today. Isaiah. Right? What? Elijah, your brother is Isaiah. Okay. All right. Hold on one second. We have a speaker group now, and he's trying to tell us about what the teacher did, and just to reword what the teacher did, because maybe tomorrow or the next day, you guys are going to be doing the same thing. So first you have to figure out what are we doing. Alright, so what happened first?
We read the story once, then she read the story again, but took notes. After that,
First, I read the story. Second, I read the story again and took notes. And then I didn't hear what you said next.
Then she figured out the adjective.
Into our graphic organizer. Could somebody else explain what the teacher did? Is there something that I'm trying to share out? Eddie.
First, he read the story once just to read it. Then he read it again and took notes. So you could, and then next you figured out the adjective. After that, you wrote down the
So first, we read it, then we read it again, and we took notes. I hear a lot of people saying we took notes. I also like to call it the evidence from the text, because if I'm pulling those notes out, it is evidence from the text. I don't want to just be picking an adjective just willy-nilly and all crazy because I like that adjective. I need to show why I picked that adjective. Now I can explain to somebody why I did. So we pulled the evidence out, and then we went through our list of adjectives and decided which one fit with those, with that evidence, and then we wrote it down. And our brainstorming is all done, and I'm ready to write it into some complete sentences about which adjective describes our setting. Other questions about what we did today? I'm gonna have you guys share again one more time with your partners about what I did. Because maybe tomorrow or the next day, you're gonna be doing the same thing. So please turn to a partner, same partner, and maybe change it or keep it the same.
Okay. First, second, she take out of the deep and she
Show me that. Thank you very much. Could I have someone to just finish up by reading our language objective, and we're just going to check to make sure we did it. Mateo.
Use complete sentences to tell your partner the teacher used details from the story to describe setting using first method.
Give me a thumbs up if you feel like we did that today. Give me a thumbs up, or maybe here if you're kind of like, I could have done a better job, or a thumbs up like, I feel like I completed that objective for the day, or this, I could use a little bit more time.
We went down. What did that mean?
We don't go all the way down.
Never.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, you guys. Thumbs up. Mrs. Fulton. They are all yours.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, explore.